Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Super happy to have you here today. I have Chris Scott joining me. So leader in the PMO, we're going to talk about leadership today. So hopefully you can take the things that we're going to talk about today and kind of think about that have affected your life and your career, but how you have leadership from where you are as well. So whether you're a project manager and literally leading projects, or whether you are somewhere else in the agency and affecting change from where you are and leading from where you are. So I'm going to share via, hopefully, PowerPoint Live. Just like normal, 1 hour, one topic is less of a formal presentation and more of a conversation. So if you feel comfortable raising your hand and having a conversation out loud, or if you feel comfortable putting things in the chat, we would love to hear from you and how this topic relates to you and your thoughts. So this information is specifically coming from the Project Management Institute. So we will be discussing the leadership styles that are discussed in the Project Management Book of Knowledge. You will hear that referred to as PMBOK. So if you're not specifically aware of PMBOK, or you haven't heard that much before, this is where that information can be found or where it's coming from. That doesn't mean that this is the only place that that information exists or that these are the only kind of leadership styles that exist, but that's specifically why we're talking about these. So the reason we're talking about leadership when we're talking to project managers and about project management is because your leadership style really determines how you're going to approach the world. All these different things, so we have a list of them here. Not going to read them for you. But these different things can all be determined based on your leadership style. This is something that comes from both your personal personality style, from your strengths, and your experiences. So this is something that you can change, and it's something that is inherent to you as well. Does anyone have any thoughts about this before we get going into it? Is leadership something that is super important to you? That's why you joined today? Or is leadership you're something like, why are we even doing this? This is silly. I love it.
I think leadership is very important, and I'm here mostly to learn. I don't know what my leadership style would be, so well, those are my thoughts on it.
Thank you, Ian. I'm really excited to share these things with everyone today. Hopefully you will find, I agree, Donnell, it does happen from every chair. Hopefully you will find elements of these leaders as we share them that really speak to you, and things that maybe will spark some memories for you. So if something comes up, I'd love to have you share it with the group. Chris.
Thanks, Tana. Good morning, everyone. All right. So as Tana was mentioning, these are the 6 categories of leadership styles as identified by PMI, the Project Management Institute. So they're listed in the PMBOK, and as Tana mentioned, they are by no means an exhaustive list. They're just a set of tools for your toolbox. Effective leadership theory is a whole industry, like a multi-billion-dollar industry. There's videos and books and tapes and books on tape and TED Talks that you can leverage on your journey through leadership styles. But for the purposes of this topic, we're going to unpack these 6 and invite you. We're just going to invite you to have a conversation on just a few ideas. First of all, which of these leadership styles do you resonate with? Either recognizing in yourself or perhaps even aspiring to. I think it's safe to assume that, all of us probably see ourselves as wanting to be charismatic and transformational leaders. But we, as Tana was mentioning, a lot of it is determined by your personality and your comfort in situations. So don't think that because you don't see yourself as charismatic that you can't be. These are learned skills, and by addressing these and going through them, a lot of these can be learned. So the second thing I want you to ask yourself is, what styles do you recognize in others? As we start going through these, you're going to your brain is probably going to go towards, oh, I worked for this person on this project and they were this way, or that's totally so-and-so from, wherever I worked. So be mindful of, and just be curious about what styles do you recognize not only in yourself, but in other people that you may have worked with. And then finally, how do the dynamics of each of these leadership styles affect teams that fall under these leadership styles? And think of it in terms of both strengths and challenges for each style, right? I don't think that, I just want to set the tone for this topic, is that none of these styles are inherently positive or negative. I mean, there's some that are, some would see as positive, but I don't think that they all have their strengths and weaknesses, or challenges, I should say, rather than just being, laissez-faire bad and charismatic good. It's a lot more nuance to that, and we're kind of explore that in the topic. Next slide. You muted, Tana.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks for adding in. Our first one up is laissez-faire. I looked up how to pronounce this so many times. So if you pronounce it a different way, that is also great. So laissez-faire, we gave kind of an example of a laissez-faire manager that people might be aware of, Michael Scott from The Office. And if you haven't watched The Office, you should totally watch it because it's very funny. And so traits of laissez-faire leadership are minimal supervision, which to me sounds absolutely amazing. That would be so wonderful. I could go do all the things I want to do. But the more I got to thinking about that, I was like, oh, but then how do I know if I'm doing a good job if my supervisor isn't there going like, oh, hey, are you doing a good job or not? And then I thought, if I am putting myself in a leader position thinking about this, am I able to do minimal supervision? When I'm responsible for a product of something, is it easy for me to say, oh yeah, cool, it's cool, just like do whatever and like be done whenever it's done? For me personally, it is not easy to do that. They also have a hands-off approach to things, which I would not count as one of my strengths. This would be a leader who only intervenes when something absolutely needs their attention. They have high trust with their team. This is a kind of manager that works well with people that are exceptionally talented in their field, which I think definitely speaks to ODOT. We have very talented experts in our field that we work with, especially as project managers. We're working with all kinds of people who are experts in their field to be able to get our projects done. But I do question, is this something that would be able to work with our projects? I'm interested to know what you guys would think about that. Laissez-faire leadership encourages independence. This is a kind of environment where employees feel like their work is their responsibility, not necessarily that their leader is taking responsibility for their work and they're just a worker bee. They're really flexible and they delegate authority. This is someone that you can feel comfortable kind of spreading your wings and doing the things that you want to do. But at the same time, I think it comes with that a lot less guidance as to what you're supposed to be doing. So as you look at both these famous laissez-faire leaders, who I think are Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, and Richard Branson, as we look at these famous laissez-faire leaders, we know they've definitely made impacts into in the world. How would this look in an ODOT landscape? How do you think about, are you capable of being this kind of leader? What challenges do you think this might bring, or what advantages do you think this might have? Has anyone known a laissez-faire leader?
I would say this might mean that, yeah, you, as an employee, your manager trusts you to some degree, but it could also be disconcerting because, like you said, you don't know if you're doing an okay job or if they're talking to HR about getting rid of you.
True, Tina, true. Atusa.
I guess I would question actually the needs of the talented team. I know that a lot of people that we're working are kind of like a professional team, but a lot of time, even though if your team would not consider it or talented, there is still a chance that you work on their different style to get them on the same page and make sure that they cooperate with the others.
That's a great point. That's a really great point. You can be talented, but cooperation takes work. That's a great point. Ian.
I think this is the leadership style I've probably dealt with the most, honestly. So I think it works well if your team performs well. If you have people who need that supervision, or well, especially when people are new, like we know ODOT, right? And when you're coming in from the outside, it's a very different world. And so I don't know if this leadership style is the best, even with a very motivated, like self-dependent or independent worker. They need help learning just the system in general. And if you don't help guide them, they can run off in all sorts of directions. And so that's kind of my 2 cents when thinking about it. With like ODOT especially in mind, like how you can get to this place with a person, but I think if they're coming in new, like there's no way this would work.
Thanks for adding that, Ian. Rye, if you think of yours again, we'd love to hear it. Donnell says this style can bring out greatness and being creative. Totally agree. And Adrian says, I think people rise to the expectations set for them. And when paired with clear expectations, laissez-faire can be highly effective. But without expectations can be slippery slope. Great, great points. And Rye agrees. That's awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Rye. Rye, are you muted?
One other thing I try to keep in mind when I have this type of manager above me is just the need to kind of manage up a little bit more and make sure that I am bringing those things to them that need their attention since they're doing less kind of checking in on me. So.
That's a great ad. Thanks for bringing that up. Tyler.
Yeah, thanks. I would offer that maybe that being an effective leader isn't necessarily prescribing to one specific leadership style and using that carte blanche across the board, but maybe tailoring your style to the situation and the team that you're trying to lead. And well, this will probably work in some situations, as it's been pointed out. In other situations, it wouldn't work. So maybe being flexible and knowing your audience and what you hope to get is probably the most effective leadership quality, I guess.
Awesome. Absolutely. I think you're spot on.
It's almost like Tyler skipped ahead in the presentation.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder. Sorry.
No, I'm just messing with you.
Robert says that he's sick. Sorry, Robert, you're sick. And chat works best, but most PMs are in a position that the team has 2 managers, project and functional managers. This ends up causing some creativity by the PM to keep the project team engaged. I agree. And hopefully some of the things that we can talk about today will help kind of get those juices flowing for that creativity. Great point, Robert. Awesome. Okay, transactional.
Okay, transactional leaders. So this is a leadership style that is based on a system of rewards and punishment. I wasn't quite, when I was going through this, I wasn't quite comfortable with the word punishment, so maybe just consequences. But it's based on that system of, if you do X, I'll give you Y. So if you do a really good job, you'll get a raise, time off, pizza party, etc. And if you don't do a good job, you'll work late, or I will invite you to come in and work on Saturdays, or be on my poop list, or what have you. The style is very results focused, and reinforced through the rewarding successes and the consequences of failure, so to speak. Often the assumption of this style is that, and not always, but the assumption is that team members have low self-motivation and require this kind of incentive to motivate them to perform. Like I said, that's either incorrect or correct, perception or reality, but it is an assumption all the same that you often find with transactional leaders. And they manage by exception. And what I mean by that, since they are results driven, a transactional leader often focuses on deficiencies or deficits, or what is going not so well, so that they can spend their time fixing or motivating their team to fix those deficiencies. They don't spend a lot of time focusing on what has gone right on a project. They may give it lip service or what have you, but it's typically seen as wasted time. Yeah, great, this effort over here went really well, but we still have all this that isn't going well. So let's get back to work so we can have that pizza party. Yay. So it's, again, it's that transactional, this for that, quid pro quo, X for Y type of approach. So, again, reflection time. Have any of you known transactional leaders? Have any of you worked for transactional leaders? Are you a transactional leader? Do you incorporate some features and benefits or downsides to being a transactional leader?
Robert. Robert, you're muted if you're talking.
I'm sorry. I would say
You're fine.
the problem here with the transactional leadership is if your reward promises become empty. Like that's the pitfall there. If you have false reward promises, you have a pitfall there of like not coming through on what you promised. So then therefore the motivation starts to wane.
That's a great point. Good call out. This one stood out to me as being the most consistent with what I see ODOT being, because we do have very clear policies and procedures. Or at least we have a lot of policies and procedures. And we have we have silos, and we have everyone's in their boxes, and everyone has their assigned things to do. This one felt very consistent with our culture the way it is now, which I think kind of makes sense with Microsoft and the Army and the NFL on there. That kind of made sense to me. So Donnell says transactional helps things to move forward and people feel progress. Not so good if all involved are transactional, create silos and blinders. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, great point.
All right, moving forward. Oh, Adrian, I think there are less opportunities for meaningful reward and consequence in a government setting where there's less leeway to offer incentives. That's a good point. Being reward-based can be difficult. Next up is, thanks for adding that, Adrian. Next up is servant leadership. This is one I feel like as a kid, we're all motivated to be like, this is what you're supposed to be like. This is how it's supposed to be. I don't know if anyone's done the Enneagrams, but Chris and I are both Enneagram number 2, the helper. And this one I think really speaks to me as that helper. So focusing on helping others, focusing on empowering others, and being a listener. So this kind of leader is very focused on those who are direct reports to that leader, making sure that those people are taken care of. This leader can also be really good at making sure people work in teams, giving time to be collaborative, giving time to be creative as a group. Earlier, we were talking about you can have really good people on a team, but if they're not working together really well, you can still have problems. This is also a leader who, yeah, it does pair well with a fixer. This is also a leader that works on making an environment where everyone feels comfortable together. But this leader can also become more focused on followers than they are focused on the mission of the organization. So we have some examples of these leaders here. What do you think about servant leadership? Is servant leadership something that you focus on in your current process? What are ways that you could pull this in or not? Would you want to? I think Chris said something really cool. We were talking about this before, talking about the power dynamics with servant leaders, and perhaps there might not be a perceived amount of power with a servant leader. Julie says a servant leader isn't always appreciated depending on the leadership styles above. Right, kind of like that. So we do often have kind of those deadlines of things that absolutely have to get done.
So, hi, Bobby here. First time joiner,
Hi.
long time listener.
Hi, everyone. This
Question,
is
if we
my
have-
leader.
If we have responses, is it best if we're just dropping them in the chat, or is this more of a,
Welcome
what's the
to the group.
preference?
You can raise your hand. You can just open your mic like you are, or you can drop them in the chat. Anything is welcome.
Okay. Well, for me on this servant leadership piece, I just wanted to offer empathy is the one that stands out the most for me under servant leadership. And I find that leaning into that helps with relatability, so that yes, you still have the leadership. Yes, you still have everyone kind of going in the same direction, but you also are able to relate so you can meet people where they are. And I say that not just as a leader, but frankly, in something that I really appreciate when in my own right leaders above me and those that I'm trying to serve as well. So thank you. I appreciate this.
Yeah, great ad. Thanks for doing that. And thanks for refocusing on the housekeeping. I apologize. Great ad. Okay, we also have Ray mentioning that servant leader is the norm in government service. You bring up a great point, Ray. Like all of us could be working outside of civil service. All of us could be in fields doing other things and probably making more money. So in that way, leading from every chair, servant leadership is the norm there. And then Tina adds, a servant leader does not ask a report to do anything they would not do. Leaders Eat Last is a great book. Great ad, Tina. Thank you. Okay, next up, Chris.
Okay, transformational leaders. These are ones that I've had a chance to attend some training. Donnell, I know you know what I'm talking about with regards to transformational leadership. Transformational leaders. These are the folks that are the inspiring ones, the ones that seek organizational change. They seek to create and inspire change. across an organization. And they empower others and motivate others through their actions, their behaviors to do, kind of follow their example. They are continually examining expectations of the organization. Core values is a strong focus for transformational leaders, not only identifying, their core values and employing them with regards to change of the organization, but also encouraging others to identify what their core values are and live those core values and carry them forth throughout the organization, with the idea that everybody who's operating within their core values makes the organization as a whole better and more transformational. And they are highly investing in their team members and developing systems around them to help develop their team members and bring the best out of them. Very inspiring people. Richard Branson from Virgin, Lee Iacocca, and Elon Musk, controversially so. Some of you might disagree with that example. I would say overall, it's the focus on kind of the ideals that a lot of us just take as status quo. People might take as organizations as a whole might take as status quo. Transformational leaders look to elevate kind of the status quo into something more. So anybody know a transformational leader? Or are you a transformational leader? I think I know a few transformational leaders on this call. Comfortable silence.
It's the best.
I'll throw one out there. So the training that I was talking about is called Ascent. And it is a very great program led by a gentleman by the name of Paul Egbert, who it's just let's see, I think it was a 9-month. I think they've since shortened it to 6 months, but it's, a couple weekends or a couple weekdays each month, and you get together with your cohort and really learn things that, you identify core values and identify your purpose and how, not only personally speaking and living, but how your work life can be transformed by applying those values and that purpose. So got a
Nice.
hand up?
Yeah, Robert.
I was just going to echo that. I'm actually about to graduate Ascent next month, so I'm finishing up, and it is 9 months still. So
9 months.
just to, yeah,
Kudos.
at least currently, unless they change it going forward. I do know there is another cohort starting next year for non-management services. It kind of alternates every other cycle. So next round will be a non-management version. So, but I would echo, great program. It's been very inspirational as well as as very informative. So
Kudos, congratulations. That's awesome. And yeah, Danielle, I agree. Ascent is the best course ever. And Christy, she said her first summer intern manager was great. He was a transformational leader. That's great. I shudder to think of what ODOT would look like if we had all transformational leaders working here. It would be it'd be both amazing and exhausting, I think.
Right. I think that's the one that stands out to me about this one too, is that they're necessary, but it does seem difficult, right? These are change makers.
Mm-hmm. You're constantly doing that work too, constantly.
Right. Next up, charismatic leadership. So I don't know about you guys, but my kids would call this Riz. I think they're still saying that. I mean, they were saying it like 6 months ago, but I'm pretty sure they're still saying these are the ones with Riz. So they got cred. I think that's a thing. I think they have cred. So these are the leaders who inspire. They inspire and motivate you through their charm and through their ability to connect emotionally with their coworkers. They are the visionaries. They are the ones who appeal to people by painting those pictures of these things. Riz is charisma, Tina. But it's a whole thing. I'll tell you about it later. Or you can Google it, but not right now. So they connect with people for this vision of things that is greater than just the individual. And people are connected through this shared vision. This can be very emotional, very greater than, and very connected feeling. But there is kind of this shadow side of this leader, which is as soon as you see cracks in that facade of, I've got this amazing, personality, I've got this great charisma, you want to follow me. If you see anything about that that's just not quite right, that leadership ability starts to fade. So relying just on this can be kind of a dangerous thing. There are lots of cult leaders that are charismatic leaders. So not that it's all bad, but it does have that shadow side to it. Does anyone know any charismatic leaders? Maybe not the shadow side, but like good side charismatic leaders. Or people who have elements of charismatic leadership. I was thinking Matt Garrett the whole time. Good call out, Julie.
I see Travis Brower as having some of the
Oh,
characteristics
yes.
on this list.
Yes.
In part, he's very good at that emotional connection and that reality. I'm coming through as an authentic person.
Yes.
And it kind of connects that, yes, I can see this. Yes, I get the vision. Yes, I understand. Let's move forward together as a group.
Great call out, Courtney. Thank you. That's great. Absolutely. Robert adds, I think it's important that everyone has their unique style, and within their styles that they strive to improve and have the best interests of their team in mind. Great point, Robert. Great point. All right, next up.
Yeah, Robert, I echo that sentiment, the last part, and interactional leadership kind of captures some of that as well. It's a style that is highly determined by your individual personality and a lot of times the situation that a leader will find themselves in. So highly adaptable, flexible. Travis, this gets back to what you had mentioned earlier in the slide about blending different types of leadership. So interactional leadership is it sort of takes the best of transactional, transformational, and charismatic and kind of blends them up, mixes them up into something that's adaptable to different situations. And so we linked a let's see, we linked the situational leadership model explained by a CEO, Leadership Ahoy. I would highly recommend you check that out. Again, this is something that takes that motivational style of a transactional leader, that incentive piece, but it right sizes it. It makes it personal personal to the team member. And it encourages that transformational change, that elevation that a transformational leader will bring into play. And of course, the charisma, the riz of a natural born leader. And I mentioned earlier that leadership is a skill that can largely be taught and learned. But when we think of an interactional leader, somebody who was, I mean, if you say a born leader, it's somebody who just has it. They walk into a room and you automatically know they have the presence and the command and the just that inspiring presence needed from a natural born leader. And sometimes that can't be taught. I mean, I would encourage everybody to try for sure. But sometimes it's just you have it. I worked for a lady on my first project management job with the state, and this lady was she was such a dynamic leader. She had an answer for everything. You could throw a problem with her, and within seconds she already had it figured out, and she knew exactly where to put her resources. And it was just impressive seeing somebody who is that good and that adept at being an interactional leader. Is just when you work for somebody like that, you really appreciate that. So Linda Hammond was her name, if anybody knows Linda Hammond. But other examples of interactional leaders, you've got General Dwight D. Eisenhower. I saw an Army guy in the chat. You know, I don't think anybody could argue that he was inspirational. He was the the one that gave the D-Day speech to the troops, and very transformational, very charismatic. Jack Stahl, I don't know too much about Jack Stahl, but I'll take their word for it that Coke was a pretty good place to work during 78 to 2000. Anybody else know any interactional leaders that kind of take the best of those transactional, transformational, and charismatic leadership styles?
We have a comment from Robert Seacrest that says, leadership by action, an example with integrity. Leadership is being comfortable with being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
Great
Good
point.
ad, Robert.
Great point. Pushing people out of their comfort zones. That's what encourages that transformation, right?
Yeah.
You don't usually change if you don't have any incentive to do it, but you push people into places where they don't think they want to be, and you can sometimes get really great results.
So as we think about these things, I would like for you to think about, Bill Ness says, having read Crusade is Europe and having studied Ike and knowing people who work directly for him, I would disagree that he was interactional. He had an extremely short temper, and what he said goes. Thanks for adding that, Bill.
Hi. Sorry about that. I meant Crusade in Europe. I'm not a very good typer.
It's fine. Thanks for adding that. I appreciate that.
He was the top dog in the U.S. Army. He gave an order. People followed it.
I love it. Okay, I'll look for a different one and I'll put a different one in there. Or you can and send it to me.
I'll let you do it.
Okay. So the questions are there times you have experienced great leadership examples on projects? What of these items that we've talked about today can you incorporate on your projects moving forward? As we've talked about, maybe the best way moving forward are pieces of these. What elements already exist for you? And then are there times you've experienced things that you know you do not want to incorporate into your style? I appreciate all the engagement we've had today.
In part, I think the thing about leadership is that the purpose is to be adaptable, that recognizing when and where certain styles are more effective, and in part because of the situation or the people that you're dealing with. A lot of leadership success is tied to one's ability to read the room, that, and whatever room that looks like, that you've got to actually be adaptable and leverage those different tool sets depending on who you're dealing with and what that relationship looks like. If you have to have an agreement to proceed, then figuring out how to work directly with that person versus a community or an advisory board, it's going to look different every time, and you've got to be able to have those tools in your toolbox to be able to adapt and incorporate when and where needed.
100%. Thank you, Courtney. Simone.
Yeah, I think something for like not wanting to incorporate into is like the transactional styles, like where it's good, where some people need goals. I feel like if you're going to be punished, some people might be afraid to speak up or do something wrong when they're just learning.
Yeah. It's a great point. Thanks for adding that. Bobby.
I echo that. That's actually what I was just going to reference. I feel especially now with so much of the frankly change fatigue and the seemingly constant incoming that we're all navigating. I agree with what Chris mentioned earlier with the punishment piece, right? Because there's those fear-based assumptions that we all have because that's human nature. And so that punishment side of the house, or just kind of that negative connotation, I feel like is more of a barrier than frankly any of us have the effort or capacity to overcome readily right now. So that's the piece where I don't want to incorporate that in my leadership style, and I sure don't need it coming at me, to be candid.
Real. Thanks for sharing that. Rye?
I would say I've been like really lucky to work for several transformational leaders. And the one piece there that I do struggle with sometimes is just the constant change piece. I think that Bobby was just mentioning too, can just kind of sometimes be exhausting. And so I really appreciate it when I have kind of a combination of a transformational leader with someone who can kind of set out a good work plan and understand capacity of their staff at the same time, instead of constantly moving on to the new shiny thing in the room. So
Yeah. That's a great ad. That's a great ad. Thanks, Rye. Bill says, I think good leaders know what they are doing. They say, follow me into difficult and dangerous situations, take actions that benefit the team, not themselves, and yes, eat last, even when they are starving. Great ad, Bill. This has been a great discussion. I really appreciate everyone coming on. I am going to stop recording.